The injuries that have become so incredibly prevalent in college football now that Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks, last I checked, they do not run any sort of a hurry up offense, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yet Ole Miss was faking injuries against South Carolina and Kentucky, who also does not run any sort of high tempo offense. Okay, so what is the poll question? Because something has to be done about this. What is the poll question now? And I want to hear your comments on the YouTube page because we got to fix this. It is annoying, especially or even if you don't have a dog in the hunt. What's the poll question?
All right, so what should be done when a player fakes an injury? Nothing, held out for a drive, held out for a quarter, injure him.
That's hot.
Yeah, just go ahead and club him right on the leg and say, don't do that again. But I'm going to.
So just so you know, for the funny thing, I'm a Grizzly fan, obviously, and when the Grizzlies had the grit and grind era with Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol, Blake Griffin and the Clippers had a history of flopping really bad. So Zach Randolph, and they, Memphis was a smaller market, so the Grizzlies would always get called for the foul. So Zach Randolph just decided, you know what? I'm going to get called for these fouls anyway. I think I'm just going to drag Blake Griffin and throw him to the ground every time he goes up for a layup anyway. And he did.
I hate to say this, but bank on it. Nothing can be done, and I'll tell you why. Bank on It is brought to you by Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial banks for personal and business. Commercial Bank, life made better. Nothing can be done about it as much as I hate it. I'll tell you why in 30 seconds.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank, life made better.
All right, Caleb, so I'm going to lean on the message board. Read Ahmad's comment first, and let me tell you why this won't work, as much as I love you, Ahmad.
Any fake injury needs to be held out for an entire quarter or even half. Teams love to do it against this Tennessee offense.
Yes, it's particularly a problem with Tennessee, but it's Lane Kiffin's way of playing defense, okay? As a matter of fact, I think there are 4 phases to Ole Miss's game. It is offense, defense, special teams, and faking injuries. You can't do that because it would alter the game way too much. Now, give me another one, like Justin has a good one. Justin Lefeva. I got the Lefeva for more Justin comments.
Held out for a drive or forfeit a timeout if he comes back in before the drive ends.
Justin may be onto something with the timeout, but I don't think that you can hold them out for a drive because here's the flip side of that. It sounds good and it makes a lot of sense. I kind of like the timeout thing, though. I think you all surprised me on the message board. But you can't do the hold out for the remainder of the drive because then players will stay in and put themselves at further risk that might think there's an injury. In other words, like Taylor Green, when we saw him go back out there, he knew he wasn't right after another play. And he knew it wasn't going to play the rest of the game. But there are times when players aren't completely sure. In Taylor Green's case, I'm sure he passed the ACL check, which is about 99% effective on the sidelines or accurate. So I don't think that you can tell them they have to sit because then they're going to feel something pop in their knee and they're going to stay out there. That's almost as concerning to me as the fake injuries because I don't want a guy staying out there that could further injure himself, right?
No, I agree with you. And this is why, for people that don't understand why nothing's been done on this, this is the reason. If you don't, the second you put in any sort of rule where if you leave the field, you have to leave for a few more plays, you will see players try to push their way through when they shouldn't push their way through. And then that'll call for a permanent issue. The same thing's going to happen with the timeout forfeiture. And by the way, what happens if it's the last 2 minutes of the game and you need that timeout? you're again going to incentivize players to try to play through that injury. And so I don't even think that works.
I like that better than anything I've heard, though, guys. Good job on the message board, don't you?
Yeah, but I still don't think. I think you still hold. I think the best thing to do, Dave, is hold them out, and I think pick like maybe a drive. And here's why: I get your point. Because they might try to play through it. But if the injury's serious, Dave, they're going to fall over. They're going to stop play and fall over if the injury's serious enough. And so I think it's a risk, but I also think that it's one where, what are we talking about here? It's one where they should probably be missing the full drive anyway if they're hurt like that.
Okay.
So
how about this possibility that you don't allow substitutions? Other than, now I know this is putting a lot more on the officials, but like for instance, it was the Pegues guy and Walter Nolan that were doing a lot for Ole Miss that I saw. Okay, so you can only sub a defensive lineman. In other words, you can't run somebody from the secondary out there to, let's say in Tennessee's case, better defend the pass. What about that idea? Now, that puts more on the officials because then you get into is James Pierce a defensive end or is he a linebacker because he's an edge rusher?
Yeah, I don't like.
Is that just too complicated?
I think that's too complicated.
Yeah, I feel like it was good before I said it, and then I said it and I felt bad about it.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I just don't think that would work. I think the best thing you can do is force players to be held out for a certain period of time. Now, you could say, how about this? Now, this is really funny. This is awful. This would be dangerous. But, Dave, in basketball, right? Like, even if there's a player hurt, if there's a fast break, the refs don't call anything. They don't stop the play until there's a dead ball or there's a bucket made. Oh, my
gosh. Are you going to play 11 on 10 down the field?
So, what if – I'm dead serious. What if a play – the refs – if the offense doesn't huddle, the refs can't stop play.
Say that again.
If the offense doesn't huddle and the clock is running, the refs can't stop play. There has to be a penalty or something. An injury can't stop.
So he's just down.
He's just down. And by the way, if he's down behind the line of scrimmage, it's an offside penalty.
That reminds me of when I had a couple buddies who went on to play college ball, and one at Vanderbilt and one at another school. And he called me and said, "You're not going to believe this. During practice, they don't even stop with an injury. They just move practice 20 yards down the field," which is true. That's what and I knew that because I'd covered Tennessee's practices. They've got 3 practice fields. So I've been in situations in which 911 was called and they moved practice to another field and continued. It was Willie Miles. Do you remember him?
I remember him. Yep.
Yeah. They thought he had a spinal injury for a moment. Everything was okay. But they just moved practice. To the other field while the ambulance was pulling up, literally.
Go back to Bear Bryant at Junction, man. When his quarterback broke his back, and all he said to the doctor was, "Man, bangs and bruises happen in football." And Bear Bryant himself dragged a broken leg 4 quarters in a game against Tennessee, of all people.
Okay, our poll question: what should be done when a player fakes an injury? Nothing. That's 2% held out for a drive, 50% held out for a quarter, 38% injure him gets 10% of the vote. Do you have to injure that said player where he's faking an injury, or can you injure him anywhere?
That's a good question. How about this? Okay, this might be a fair way to do it. By the way, I want to address something real quick before Shane Bieber looks like an idiot being the one bringing this up. South Carolina lost 27-3 to Ole Miss. You're telling me that they really, if Ole Miss didn't fake their injuries, you guys had a chance? Really, Shane?
Well, they didn't have a chance, but man, did you watch any of that game? The flow of the game was hard to watch.
Yes, but at the same time, South Carolina was never coming close. By the way, Spencer Rattler is going to get his first start this week for the Saints. But aside from that, South Carolina, they weren't winning that game, guys. This looks ridiculous, and I can't blame Ole Miss. I'm of the I'm coming around to no. You just don't stop play until
no.
I'm kind of coming around to where in football, play doesn't stop until there's a dead ball. That's where I'm at.
Caleb, what if there's a turnover and they run downfield and they end up stomping on Walter Nolan. That would be awful.
Wait, if there's a turnover, the play wouldn't stop for a turn. The play would stop after a turnover. That's a dead ball after a turnover.
Well, no, I'm saying that you're talking about just leaving a player writhing on the ground.
Yes. Yes.
Well, then
yes. Leave him riding on the. They do it in
okay,
basketball. Wait, they do it in soccer. They do it in hockey. They do it in basketball. Do it in football. You don't stop for an injury until the play. You don't stop for an injury until there's a dead ball. Whether a player ran out of bounds, an incomplete pass, a penalty, a touchdown, a field goal, boom, boom. I have fixed college football. I have fixed it. There, you don't stop until there's a penalty, until there's a dead ball.
Okay. Well, if you're running a hurry up offense, Caleb, what could quickly happen is that player's writhing on the ground at midfield and there's a turnover and then he gets trampled. That's the worst idea ever. But Ahmad's right. Ole Miss had like 10 timeouts because of that. It was absurd. So I'm not a big Shane Beamer guy, but I'm going to go ahead and say good for him to call it out. I mean, I don't care if it's Clark Lee calling it out, whoever it is calling it out. Somebody needs.
Well, Clark Lee has a lot more credibility calling it out right now than Shane Beamer.